Hello, everybody.
Hello for the first time tonight.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. So let's try this again. This is Clawing Back Your Privacy, Personal Internet Hygiene in Unsafe Environments, presented by DEF CON FERS. I'm Junaos, this is Alofoxx, and we'll do some quick intros.
Yes. Hello, everybody. I'm Alexx. I am VR chat Fox most of the time, but in my day job, I'm an information security engineer at PlayStation, and I've been doing a lot of like web application security stuff before that. I've always been interested in kind of like OWASP type stuff and figuring out how things work under the hood. And so that sort of led me into that career field. And to kind of plays into where I'm at today with interests, aside from all the convention stuff. What about you, Junaos?
Wait, you do stuff besides conventions? Hi, I'm Junaos. Yeah, no. I've been in tech now for about 21 years. For about 12 years of that, I've been a SRE manager, site reliability engineering manager, and production engineering manager. I've spent a lot of time not only dealing with security, but also the compliance and audit and, privacy side of the house. I've been involved with DEF CON FERS now since 2018. I've been the vice chair since about 2020. And I've been doing DEF CON for 12 years now. Wow. So that's my exposure to the security field.
It's been a minute. Yeah, so just quick shout out. This panel is brought to you by DEF CON FERS. If you've attended Friday before, you might have attended our panel last year where we kind of talk about all that and DEF CON and hacking in general. So this is just a quick slide just saying who we are as a group. If you're interested in information security and are furry or just anything kind of maker like that, feel free to join our Telegram group where you can, it's like a big open group for everyone in that interest. It's not just about those attending DEF CON. And that's where the community is, and we do cool things sometimes.
And it's really not about DEF CON. There's a lot of people in that group who've never been and have no intention of going to DEF CON. It's really just furry hackers with tails.
Yeah, hackers with tails. You want to cover the disclaimers?
Sure. So some quick disclaimers, just get out of the way. So this talk is sponsored and organized by Hack Your Lives. We are the 501c3 behind DEF CON FERS. Alofoxx and I are both board members. Everything we're going to talk about is our own opinions and our own thoughts. Nothing has to do with any of our employers. We won't mention who our employers are. If you find out, it has nothing to do with them. And most importantly, we're going to talk about some really real hypothetical situations in this talk. We're going to talk about possibilities of what might happen. Some of it may be a little graphic, so this is your trigger warning ahead of time. There's not going to be anything too racy, but we are going to talk about some real, potentially somewhat dark situations.
Current geopolitical topics.
Yep. Cool. Alo, do you want to? I'll cover the history of hacking. So, let's talk a little bit about hacking and what it is and where it came from. Popular culture will have you think that hacking really is just about computers and, your stereotypical guy in the hoodie hacking into the bank from his laptop. And while there is certainly hacking that looks like that, that's not what all hacking looks like, and that's not even where hacking started. On this slide, we're showing a bunch of different artifacts of the hacking era long lost. And most importantly, in the upper left-hand corner, you'll see this little whistle. And what that whistle is it was actually a toy from a Captain Crunch box. And what that toy could do was emit a tone at exactly 2600 hertz, which it just so happens could be used alongside a payphone or a landline to make free phone calls. And this is largely considered the history of, or the genesis of modern hacking. It's called phreaking or telefreaking. That's with a PH. And in fact, the number 2600 and the name Captain Crunch are both really iconic now in the hacker world. Also on the slide, you can see just some other viruses and things. If anybody can tell me what that thing in the top center is that's below 20, you'll get a free cookie after. And the one on the right if you're below 30. But we have on the slide in no particular order, below Captain Crunch, we have Nod 32, we have the Sub-7 virus, which was one of the first rat tools ever released. To the right of that, below the mysterious device that nobody under 20 knows what it is Nod 32. That's the first commercial antivirus program that was ever released. Below that, the AIDS virus. Somebody actually said in chat, 300 baud audio coupled modem. Good job. Below that is the AIDS virus. This is actually from the 70s and is the first known ransomware in existence. And at the time, because there was really no internet, at least not one that most people had, to unlock the ransomware computer, you would have to send a check to a PO box in, I believe, the Cayman Islands. And they would send you back a code that you could enter to actually unencrypt your stuff. If you want more information, last year's talk was actually mostly about the history of hacking. This is just a condensed slide. In the upper right-hand corner of the slide, you'll see a QR code that will take you to the YouTube video from. I think I glitched out for a second.
You're back.
Back. Yep. Sorry. So if you click the QR code in the upper right, that'll take you to a YouTube for our talk from Ferality Umbra.
Yeah.
Next slide.
I got it.
There we go.
Yeah. So, we kind of said in disclaimers, this talk is going to cover a little bit about sort of current topics that are going on. Obviously, as someone who lives in America, both me and Junaos, this is most knowledge to us. There's things happening all over the world all the time, even before current times here. But this is just sort of relevant. It's not really about why it's going on, but just sort of the consequences of that in the context of people like us. So, lots of stuff are going on. There's people protesting for equal rights, and I'm sure most of the fandom is aware of LGBTQ things, and it's been pretty negative for that lately here in the States. And having an opinion on these matters has put you subject to extra scrutiny when entering this country, which isn't something that I think even most Americans have had any experience with. A lot of us don't travel outside the country just because it's so big. And so this might be commonplace for others who have come to America before or gone to other countries across the pond, where the country they're entering might be a little bit more strict on what you're allowed to engage with. It's now becoming a thing here when a lot of my friends that normally come to United States for furry conventions are afraid to come to the US. They've canceled their flights. They're unsure if it's worth the risk of crossing the border just because of all the crap that's going on, right? And so there's a lot of scrutiny for having differing opinions, differing interests in your life, and whether or not you see existing as politics or just trying to be yourself, the consequences are real. And so that's where it kind of ties into this talk about privacy. What the main focus here is, what can you do to be more secure with your own information in a way that allows you to kind of have a little more say in who finds out things about you when you might be in a situation where it's not in your best interest for that to be all out in the open, like when crossing the border.
Yep. So the core of what we're going to be talking about today really is about how to think about what kind of security and what kind of privacy you need to engage with day to day. Everyone has a different threat model, and we'll talk a little bit more about what we mean by threat model, but at a high level, it's the idea of what you need to protect and from who. You won't be seen by your neighbors if you never go outside, right? So the analog here is, if you have a computer that is unplugged from power, unplugged from the internet, and never is used, then sure, nobody's going to hack into it. But what you're trading is the ability to use that computer. Similarly, if you never go outside, your neighbors are never going to see you, but you're also never going to go outside, right? And so we have to balance that risk with actually being able to engage with our lives and nourish ourselves and meet our needs. And not to mention security is stressful, right? Like having to think about these things is stressful. And so you want to find a balance where you can reduce stress from consuming too much of a security agenda, right? So figure out what your actual threats are and what you can actually do about it. There's a lot of things that are happening today that simply are not in our control. We're going to talk about the things that are so that you can take reasonable, logical steps to protect yourself, your data, and your identity in 2025. So let's talk about building your threat model. There are really 5 key steps of the threat modeling process. First thing is define your safety requirements, right? What is it that you're trying to protect, and what is the situation in which you're trying to protect it, right? For an example, I'll just use traveling, right? Let's say you are traveling outside of the United States or outside of your country to another country, right? So what are the safety requirements? You have your phone, right? You want to protect your private conversations on your phone, and let's just start with that, right? Identifying the likely threats. For whatever country you're going to, you are likely going to have to cross a border. You are going to have to answer questions from customs, and you may be asked to surrender your devices. Cool. There's your likely threat. Well, what's the threat assessment? Well, we know that when you're crossing most international borders, you actually don't have a lot of the same rights to privacy that you might enjoy if you're in the country, America included. The border is what's known as a constitution-free zone, meaning that even though at a normal traffic stop or in your normal course of action day to day, you can't be forced to give up your password. At a border, you can, or at least you can be forced to give up your password or deported back to your country if you refuse, right? So that is the assessment of the threat. Cool. So how do we mitigate that? Well, there's a bunch of things, and we'll talk about a couple, but maybe for you, the answer is I'm just going to wipe all my Telegram. I'm going to delete Telegram from my phone because that's where I have all of my dirty images and all of my private conversations that I don't want them to read, and I'll leave everything else. Great. You've mitigated the threat. And then you can confirm that, right? You can go through the border, you can hand over your phone, they don't see Telegram, and you get let into the country, right? Obviously, if you have the chance to confirm offline and in a dry run, that's preferable. In this case, you may not get that.
I got you.
There we go. Thank you. I don't know why the button grayed out for me now, but I'll take it. Yeah, I love this picture. So this is an example threat model, and this threat model belongs to someone you may have heard of. His name is Batman, also known as Bruce Wayne. So going back to the model, right, identify what the threats are, right? What are you trying to protect? So first, Batman's trying to protect his home, right, the Batcave. He's trying to protect his trusty servant, Alfred. His emails, because he's emailing with the commissioner constantly about, what it is he's working on and what they need him to do. And his texts, right? He's texting Robin, and, he doesn't want those texts to get out. Who are we protecting them from, right? We're protecting them on the right-hand side from the police. The police are really interested in, potentially getting into the Batcave. They might be interested in his emails because some of them want to charge him with a crime, right? Maybe they want to get to Alfred because Alfred is a way to get to Batman. The Joker is interested in all of this, right? Would love to have any information he wants on Batman. And even journalists, right? Journalists would love to get their hands on Batman's email and texts. Sorry, reading the chat. Neo and Nia, I agree. So how do you protect these things, right? Well, the house and Alfred, or the Batcave and Alfred, protect with a security system, right? Alfred is in the Batcave has a security system. Cool. What about emails and texts, right? Well, you can hide your location for emails, right? And not be, as well as texts, and make sure they can't geolocate you based on those. You can also encrypt your emails and texts, right? So Batman, in this case, because he doesn't want journalists to read his email, would encrypt his emails and texts. He would use burner email accounts, burner phones to hide his location. And this is how we think about threat modeling, right? Identifying your assets, figuring out what you can do to protect them, and from who.
Gotcha. Current cybersecurity threats. So, obviously, most of us don't have the Batcave at home, and as much as we might have it when we put the headset on, but just kind of like common stuff. There's always these fun things that are happening in movies where you just or even video games like Watch Dogs. You just walk up with the phone and you press a button and now you control everything. It's not necessarily like that. There's some realities that we live in. Obviously, I think most people, I would assume, in today's world know what the word phishing means, even though it's still the most prevalent attack that is successful when it comes to things like companies. But you notice that if any of you have an email address, of which we all have to have one just to log into things like even VR chat, you get everything but the actual mail that you want. So almost everything I get is junk mail. It's advertisements and stuff for things. And sometimes these ads look very fake, like your Nigerian prince offering you $1 million and it's really weirdly misspelled and is clearly, I think, a scam to most of us. We've grown up learning computers as millennials of like, yeah, that's obvious. And, usually our parents or grandparents are the ones dealing with it. But, even as the next generation gets online, they've gotten really good at making these look legit and real. And, they go to the extent of where they hack the actual company that sends the email. And, we're smart enough to, some of you might be smart enough to go to the email headers and it's like, was this sent from the actual company? Can I trust this? And it's a hacked email. You click a link and, they download a virus or something. For us, like VR chat players, I think more common one is the Discord link scams. It's all phishing. It's a very, we talk about it like it's a thing that you hear every year in October Cybersecurity Month, and it's like, oh, that'll never get me. And then, you have to get in your Discord account back because it got you. So just think about links when you click on them. Just don't click on links. Google everything. Don't click on the ads, and try to get to the original website yourself. It's best way to kind of counteract that. Vishing, smishing, I don't think any of us really care about vishing. Raise your hand if you've answered your phone in the last like 5 years, not me. I don't even have the ringer on.
You can do something other than Telegram with it?
Right? It's how I feel, right? So now text messages, I don't really get that much spam text. I mean, I did during the election season. I swear everybody had my damn phone number. It wouldn't stop, but don't click on links that get texted to you. There's no one that is smart enough to paste a link into SMS. So it's not anyone Like, it's a pain in the butt for me to even do that. No, your parent isn't doing that. So don't click on that, right? And there's a screenshot here from Telegram. It's a common scam in Telegram. There's a lot of what people say are bots, but honestly, they're just other humans that are trying to scam you. And they know what VR chat is. In every single Discord server, you're going to have at least one person who's logged in, has a furry icon. It might look real. It might be AI generated. And then they're like, hey, I make commissions. I'm just going to DM you first to commission me because I make models. And they know what VR chat is. And they're in a VR chat Discord server for furries. And they're saying, I make furry avatars. And then they have some image that looks either really bad or stolen from some really good artist. They know what you like. It's not just a random AI bot. There's actual humans behind this responding to you. And, sometimes they don't respond very well. And sometimes they can have a full in the know conversation and even know our lingo. So just dealers don't DM you. They don't have time for that. If you want a commission, go find an artist and message them. They shouldn't be messaging you first. That is an instantaneous red flag. And if you are a dealer that actually does that, I would be really shocked and you probably should stop because it's just not a good look. Just make ads and let people reach out to you. So,
yep. And I was going to say, you mentioned earlier the typos and how you can tell they're fake. That for a long time was their strategy, right? They wanted to target people who wouldn't get tricked by that that would get tricked, because if you got tricked by that, you'd probably get tricked by their scam. And as Alo said, as the next generation, as our generation is now the one being scammed, they've changed their tactics and now they're learning more about us. And especially with technologies like AI, it becomes a lot easier for them to figure things out and for them to pretend to be someone that they're not, right? So be very vigilant.
Yeah, and so I mean, I already kind of touched on this before the slide showed up, but yeah, Discord compromises are very common, and you know, we they come in waves, and then there's like, at everyone, beware, you can just look this way and get hacked, and maybe it's a little sensationalized, but the point should be stop clicking links, especially if they're DMs. Just never click a link. Turn off your privacy settings. Just ignore everybody who's not your friend. I won't beat on that a little more. You want to cover this one?
Yep. Sure. So most of what we're trying to protect from and what we're trying to protect really falls generally under the category of surveillance, right? Because surveillance is the act of observing someone or something to get some sort of information, right? Some of the things that they may want to surveil might be your devices, right? Your laptop, your cell phone, your smartwatch, your VR chat headset, right? Cameras. There are security cameras in most public places, right? You may even have cameras in your house. If anyone ever gets interested, go to Shodan. They have a search for unprotected IP cameras, and you can just start looking inside random businesses and houses. Facial recognition, right? Getting somebody's biometrics. There's a lot of systems now that store those, right? Especially workplace systems. If they can get that information, they can use that to then compromise systems that also use that information. Communications, right? Your telephone, if you do use that for phone calls and SMSs, but also for your apps that you use on it, right? Telegram, even things like websites you visit, that can be used as blackmail and as collateral against you. Social media, right? If you post something on social media, it's there forever. It doesn't matter if you go back and delete it. It's been archived. It exists, and that can be used to build a profile on you or to blackmail you. Posts, emails, cameras, kind of all the same thing. Medical records and health apps, especially in, today in America, but for a long time in many countries, advice to AFAB people, assigned female at birth people, is to not use things like period tracking apps, right? Or not to use like prenatal or pregnancy tracking apps, because if you have to get an abortion, now that data is there that you were pregnant, and they can use that to construct a case against you for something like abortion, or worse, if you have a miscarriage, right? To say, oh, well, you had a baby and now you don't. What happened? Even if you had a miscarriage, that's traumatizing. Possessions and personal effects, right? We talked a little bit about the borders. We were talking about threat modeling. When you cross a border, it's a constitution-free zone. Anything that you have with you, any devices you have, can be searched thoroughly. And if you don't comply, the best you can hope for is getting put on a plane back to your country. It could also be being put in a holding cell or being imprisoned. Banking credit card records, right? This is tale as old as time. If we can get your bank or your credit card, then we can just take all your money and spend it. And yeah, your bank may protect you, but in the meantime, we spent all your money. And then affiliations, right? This is a big thing. Churches and religions, right? Whether it's, Muslims in America or Jews in certain countries, even Christians in a lot of countries are persecuted. Like, you can be persecuted for your religious affiliation. You could be persecuted for your race or ethnicity, right? We've seen waves of that in America. We've seen waves of that around the world. For being queer, right? This is the furry community. Most of us are some part of the LGBTQIA spectrum. And right now, there's not a lot of places in the world where you can safely broadcast that. And of course, like, I could cover a list, and if I didn't mention, the specific minority that you identify with, that wasn't a slight. There's only so much room on the slide, but you get the picture. There's just so many reasons that somebody could be persecuted or be victimized, essentially, and that surveilled information used against you.
Yeah. So, before I kind of get into best practices, Another thing too with surveillance, just wanted to touch on because it came to mind. There's like a lot of people think that, oh, there's cameras everywhere, and it's just about sneaking through New York City in the shadow areas, right, and not being seen on camera. There's a lot of cameras, and there might be some on the street, but most of the time they don't even bother getting going through that, especially if it's something like a protest or other thing that you're at. And like, we don't have any tips in here specifically for like people who might be engaging that activity, but just be conscious that even if you don't have your phone on you, there's a lot of people who do, and they're taking pictures and they're live streaming. Everyone's on TikTok live, everyone's on Facebook live, everyone's on Twitter. I don't think they do live anymore, but they're still tweeting or yeeting or whatever the heck it's called now. And
I don't know.
There's already open source software out there that you can look up if you want, and I'm sure that the governments have much better software that they have in house or built upon, where they can literally just like give it a picture and it will scan all social media, especially Blue Sky, which is all open. There's no locked accounts on Blue Sky, and we're all moving there, right? It could just scan all the images and reconstruct every geotagged photo that was taken in that area anytime around the protests, and almost have like a point cloud 3D map, like what they kind of imagine when you see a movie, but in reality of real photos from the event. So you can be reconstructed that way. We have the technology. This isn't like supercomputer stuff. It's just current day tech that we have of photogrammetry and social media, open source OSINT, right? Open source information intelligence. So that kind of gets in a little bit into travel safety, which I'll touch on on the last point, but there's things that you can do to sort of better situate yourself for crossing a border or just being in a country where you might not have all the ease of freedoms that you have in your home country. Lockdown mode is a feature that's built into Android phones, as well as, I'm not sure exactly what it's called. It might be called the same thing in iOS. I don't have an iPhone.
Yeah, I think it is.
But like Android, you can hit your power button, I think 3 or 5 times, and it will force log out your screen so that your thumbprint doesn't work anymore and you have to type in your PIN code. You may have wondered, like, why does that happen? I wanted my camera. The reason is for that is because I think, I'm not sure if it's every state, but I think it's a federal law where police who pull you over, they cannot compel you to tell you their password, but they can force you to do any biometrics. So they can take your thumb and shove it on the phone to unlock your phone if they want to. They can take your face and put the camera in front of it to unlock your face lock, but they cannot ask you for your PIN code. Now, what they're allowed to do and what they, might just do anyway because they can, that's besides the point. But just what they're allowed to do, that's what that lockdown mode does, is it prevents your biometrics or your face from working on the phone without the PIN, kind of like when you first boot it.
And then it's actually it's the Fifth Amendment protection, right? The reason they can't compel your password is because they can't force you to incriminate yourself, so they can't force you to say the contents of your mind. It's the same reason you can't be forced to testify. So it is federal. It's every state in the U.S. That does not necessarily apply in other countries.
Yeah, and so moving on to crossing the border, obviously, there's 2 aspects there. In the border crossing, they can ask you for your PIN, and I think what they're supposed to do is, if you say no, they take your phone forever and they never get back to you, and you may or may not be let in the country, depending on how they feel. So just expect that they will be going through your phone. Plan for it. If you are entering the United States, even if you are a U.S. citizen, they will go through your phone, and maybe they won't because of the way you look, or they're busy, or that agent doesn't care, and you had a good chance, or they were too busy. But they can stop literally everyone if they wanted to, if they feel that way. If you give them a weird look, or just the wind is blowing to the left, they can do it. So disconnecting your phone from the internet, put it into airplane mode. If you have some kind of guest mode for the phone where you can restrict turning on the Wi-Fi, turning on the network, technically they're not supposed to go through cloud accounts, but most of our cloud accounts, like when you have Gmail or Telegram, when you load the chat, it's downloading it to your phone, so it's on your phone and they have access to that. So it's best that you remove things like Telegram or your Signal or anything that you don't want read, where it might show who you have relationships with, or what kind of art that you like, or whatever. It's not about necessarily hiding illegal stuff. That's not what we're worried about. It's just, I have I have a certain religion, I have a certain sexuality, I have a whatever. There's nothing wrong with the content on the phone. It might not even be like adult subject, right? But having it off of your phone reduces that risk that it might be used as an excuse to reject your entrance, ban you from the country, incarcerate you, whatever it is that that country might want to do. Removing any local data, wiping the phone is usually a good tactic if you can deal with it. I know that I'd probably be really frustrated if I wiped my phone, so I don't know.
Yeah.
You can always just buy a second phone.
Yeah, one caveat with this and the burner, though, is if you show up to the border with a phone that obviously has nothing on it and it's never been used, they're going to know it's a burner, and they can use that just as easily as justification to deport you and deny you entry. That being said, they still won't know why, so that may be a safer option for some people than showing up with your real phone.
A lot of Android phones and iOS phones let you transfer data, and you could just say only transfer text messages, because honestly, who do you even text? It's just your parents, and they don't care about that, right? You know, treat your family in SMS and leave that on the burner phone as a copy, and keep your Telegram off, right? And then avoid posting negative social media about the country, right? There's been plenty of news of I know that there's millions of travelers, and only one or two of them are on the news. It's not about the statistics; it's just about the possibility, right? There was someone who tweeted negative things about our current president, and they used that as a reason, as an excuse to reject entry or do whatever they did to that person. And it's just a lot of the software that we have. I've heard talks at DEF CON where there's just profile things on you where it can face recognize you and go search social media to see if it can find your Twitter. If you've ever posted a selfie online, it might find your account and see that you posted stupid shit. If you're logged into your social media on your phone, they don't even need to go looking. And it's not like the agent is necessarily spending 2 hours going through your phone manually. They might still do that, but they all can just plug it right into the phone, and they have a computer that just scans everything and looks for what they want to find to review, right? Kind of like the X-ray machine. So there's a lot of tech that they have to make the process really efficient for them to ruin your day. And so don't make yourself an easy target. I'll pass it back to you for a moment. Let me get a drink.
For sure. So what are some of the things that you can do? And a lot of these are going to be really basic. Obviously, as you build your threat model, you'll want to do research and find some more advanced things. And we'll talk about a couple of them. First off, unique passwords for everything, right? Password breaches are an hourly occurrence these days. I think if anybody here goes to like Have I Been Pwned or any other site and types in your email address, you're going to find at least a couple places where your password's been breached. And the danger here isn't necessarily anything to do with the site that got breached, right? Let's say you're a member of some forum and it gets breached. It was breached anyway. They have your info. But if you use that password on your banking website, right now, whoever breached the site has your password. They can go try it at a million sites. There was actually one time I got, I think, 10,000 emails in the course of a couple hours from people trying my email address and password at different sites and registering accounts, right? If you use a unique password everywhere, you're not going to run into this issue. And store it in a password manager, right? If you're going to make a unique password for everything, you need to have a way to recall those passwords on demand. Use 1Password or use KeePass or use Trecerit. New one that I found that I actually really like is Keeper, right? Just don't use, what was the one that, LastPass. Don't use LastPass. It's had way too many security issues. Just personal opinion, stay away from it. KeePass XC is my favorite. Uskenso, yes, that's what I use on my machine. And it's also, that's the one of these that you have full control over, right? You store it in your own cloud, so your own Google Drive or whatever, and nobody else has access to your data. Those passwords should be strong. So besides just being unique, they should be strong. And this guidance is general guidance. There's a bunch of different ways to make strong passwords, especially if you have a password manager. Yes, correct. Horse battery staple. You want to use different character types, right? Have at least a minimum character count, I'd say, of 16 if you can get away with it. Some sites won't let you. don't use characters in similar locations, right? Don't just repeat characters. Don't end your password with 111. Don't do common patterns or keyboard walks. And when we say keyboard walks, it's things like QWERTY, or ASDFGHJKL. Basically just running your finger along the keyboard and walking it, right? Passphrases are better than passwords. If you want a really simple way to make passphrases, look up Diceware. It is a free open source tool. And I say open source because you don't even download software. You roll dice. And depending on the result of the dice, that forms your password. And you can use that every day to create new passwords for every site. And it's a fun way to do it, especially if you're into D&D. If you haven't read the XKCD on the right-hand side, correct horse battery staple, it talks a little bit about why passphrases are better than passwords. Please do not make your password correct horse battery staple, or if you do, send me your email address.
That's my hotspot password.
Hotspot, I like that for hotspots. MFA?
Oh, yes. 2FA, MFA, it's second factor authentication or two-factor authentication and multi-factor authentication. Some of you have heard of this before, but just for those to give everyone coverage, it's just having like multiple ways, multiple things, so that if one of your factors of authentication, like your password, is compromised, whoever compromised that will probably not have your second factor unless they are actively phishing you for it. I'll cover that in a moment. But basically, these are usually fall into three categories. Something you have, like a physical YubiKey. I have YubiKey. There's other stuff like that. I think there's a Google Titan something. Yeah. And Google Authenticator or Authy is a common like app-based thing for the little 6-digit code that resets every 30 seconds. That's TOTP. You have to have the phone or the device that knows that number in addition to the password, right? Or you have to plug in the USB key in addition to the password. Something like there's another category, something you are, and that's usually your biometrics. So there's like scanners that can scan your entire hand print of the shape of your hand and how your fingers and everything is there, which is really unique to you beyond a thumbprint. Obviously, everyone should be familiar with thumbprint readers. A lot of our phones have figured that out. I don't know if Apple has, but I know that my Samsung screen works on my Android phone finally through the screen thumbprint reader.
Yep.
And Apple has the face scan. What do they call it?
Retina. Retina scan.
Retina scan, yeah. But it's not retina scanning, right? It's just your face shape. It's not scanning your eyes. They call it retina because, it's so high quality, but it's not a retina scan. I think it's like Face ID, right?
Face ID, that's what it's called.
Yeah. So it's scanning the shape or the topology, to use VR chat, model, whatever, the shape of your face. It's counting your polys of your bone structure of your face to unlock your phone. And,
even the MacBooks now have the fingerprint sensor, and that now can be used as a passkey or as one of your factors of authentication.
Yeah, the thumbprint reader.
The thumbprint reader. One thing I will say as a warning on 2FA, your web browsers now, especially Google Chrome, will offer to be one of your factors. Unless that is protected by something like a fingerprint or some other way of unlocking it. And I think somebody was talking about this in the chat. Don't do it. That means if somebody's sitting at your computer, they have access to your 2FA, right? You really want to make sure that if you're going to be using 2FA or MFA, that somebody can't grab one thing and have access to multiple factors.
Yeah.
Also, don't use their password management. It sucks.
Yeah, in the browser. You say, we'll ask you. No, it like literally harasses the heck out of you. I can't log into anything. It was like, do you want a passkey? Are you sure? It looks like you click cancel. Really, please make a passkey. I'm freaking annoying, I swear. But anyway,
yep. I'm very happy that it worked. They disabled that.
Yeah. There's two other like biometrics that are used. I've only ever seen it in movies. Unless you work at some government facility or high-tech place, you probably don't have a biometric that's based on your voice or your actual retina scan where you put your eyeball in a scanner. Shout out to my Splinter Cell fans, where we was part of the first game. We just shoved some guy's head in the scanner to open the vault, right? But anyway, the last category is something you know, right? Which is your password, your social security number, which I think that's more of something everyone knows, but they don't count that as a category. And so I'll move on. So best methods, right? I 100% endorse YubiKey or similar type devices. I am not sponsored by them. I don't have any affiliate code, but I've always used the YubiKey to do most of my 2FA, and it's pretty universally supported by all the password managers. And you can even install like a PAM module if you use Mac OS or Linux, where you can use it as a similar to like a CAC card for logging in. And I'm sure there's a way to use the like CAC card feature of Windows to make sure that like you can't even type your Windows password in with without the YubiKey in there. That's probably more aggressive security than most of us are willing to put up with. But I love that. The second favorite thing is obviously a not Google Authenticator, but TOTP. So using an app like Google Authenticator or Authy. Authy's been annoying because they got rid of their desktop support, but I do use it that way. If my phone ever explodes, gets ran over, dropped into the ocean, whoever, I can, back up my phone onto a new one and log into it and recover all of my keys. That might be a risk to you. If you don't want to do that, just use Google Authenticator. It only works on that single device. But those are definitely preferred over texted 2FA codes. Just don't use them. Avoid them. There's a lot of reasons to just don't use them. If you are being texted a code, it should only be as a better than nothing result. If they don't offer TOTP where you scan a QR code on your phone with an app, that's definitely 100% better. There's just a lot of risks with that. And then obviously passkeys, WebAuthn are a thing. And as you mentioned, that means that now anyone with your physical computer has your credentials. It's as though they've taken the key out of your pocket when they're using it. So maybe you never your laptop never leaves your site, and that's good for you. But again, if you're crossing the border with it, then they have it, right? And if you're leaving it at home, then somebody else has it. So,
yep.
I always throw in Hans. You gotta love Hans, right? Friend on the login screen, right? You should be using this. In fact, I don't think you can't not use this. It's now enforced by default. Maybe there's a way to turn it off, but don't turn it off. Use 2FA on VR chat. There's no reason for you not to use this, because it should be easy for you to log in. And I know it makes it annoying for other people to log in, but you shouldn't have anyone else logging into your account. That's how stupid things happen. Just don't share your dang VR chat account. Learn what Unity is for 10 seconds to click upload. Let your friends set up your avatars, but just do the upload yourself. That way you don't have to share your password. They don't have a good way for us to share
don't let people log into your account.
I know it would be nice if there was like a shared token that you could give someone to upload just a single avatar or something, but we're not there yet. Maybe in the future. But for now, don't share your password. And there's third-party apps like what was it? I always forget what it's called. VRCX. It's very popular.
Oh.
You are trusting the people who wrote that software to never be hacked and have malicious stuff put in their code. You're also trusting that your computer doesn't have anything on it that would go and find where those credentials might be stored. So I'm not saying that using VRCX is dangerous in itself. A lot of people use it. It is a very useful software, but it is adding to your risk profile, right? You are saving valid credentials on your computer somewhere for that software to work. It doesn't leave your computer, but anything that has access to your computer could potentially access those files. So this is not a slight towards VRCX or any other third-party software out there. It's just saying, hey, for that to work, it has to have something on there. I think very briefly cover this, and we'll take one or two questions. There is a Discord chat. I don't think anyone's using it, but we will look at Twitch chat. We have just a few minutes left here.
Yep. So really quickly, you can't go on the internet without seeing a VPN ad these days, and they promise you the world. They will tell you that if you're using a VPN, nothing you're doing and it can be tracked, and you're protecting yourself from every hacker, and it's just simply not true. A VPN is a virtual private network. They are really good for certain things, especially if you use one for work. They're a really great way to connect yourself to the work network. If you're on public hotspots, cafes, coffee shops, things like that, being on a VPN can protect you from snooping on that hotspot, right? Even that, the utility is a little bit limited. Almost every website is encrypted now, and so it's very hard to snoop web traffic. Exactly. It makes no sense for casual browsing. It's really meant for work, right? Also, if you're on a VPN and you go log into your Facebook account, you're still logged into your Facebook account. Nothing that you're doing on there is safe. Nothing you're doing is private. You're just doing it on a VPN and slowing down your connection. For most people, the biggest use of a VPN is essentially being able to watch movies from America when you leave another country, or watch movies from another country while you're in America. That is the most valuable thing. I see a question that we'll get to, but that covers VPNs. And then I think, oh yeah, really quickly, encryption and encrypted apps. Signal is the gold standard for sure. It has end-to-end encryption. Again, if you're crossing borders, you may also, they have stickers now. If you're crossing borders, you may still want to use things like ephemeral messages and make sure that, you know, any messages you're sending you don't want people to read get deleted. That is the most secure way to use not just Signal, but any messaging app. WhatsApp, also end-to-end encrypted. You can look up their audit reports, and they use well-known encryption. Telegram is technically end-to-end encrypted, but they committed one of the cardinal sins of cryptography, which is rolling their own crypto, and their cryptographic algorithm has not been fully vetted, so proceed with caution, especially with anything sensitive. By the way, it is only encrypted if you start secret chats. Group chats and just person-to-person chats are not end-to-end encrypted. They are just encrypted with HTTPS. And then Blue Sky, Twitter, Discord, none of them are encrypted by default. There are layers for some of them, especially Blue Sky now, where you can, but don't assume they're encrypted unless you know what you're doing and are putting in those layers. Cool. That brings us to the end of the talk. I think this is the first time we've finished anywhere near on time. We have about 3 minutes, it looks like, for questions.
About the QR code.
Yep. We do offer free candy as part of the talk for anybody who attended, so please help yourself. Oh, is it unreadable?
Scan it.
Damn.
Scan it later. Scan it later on YouTube.
We'll publish the deck.
Yeah. It won't do anything right now. So anyways, I saw some questions in there. What about Wi-Fi downgrade attacks? I mean, that is a valid use case, but like, how many people these days actually use Wi-Fi anymore in the public? Like, we have phones as most of our internet connection. Usually if you're on the move at a coffee shop, you're probably browsing on your phone, and that's going to be using your mobile network. And if you might tether off of it, but if you have to use a Wi-Fi, I mean, using a VPN to just protect yourself might be beneficial, but most of these big corporate vendors have a proper Wi-Fi infrastructure anyway, right?
Yeah, Cisco, AnyConnect.
If it's like a Starbucks, if you're going to Joe's Taco Shop, maybe it doesn't have, the latest and greatest Wi-Fi capability, but most of these big corporate things, it's all managed anyway.
Yep. Yeah, most of them now isolate their guest networks. That was not the case 5 years ago or so. Another question that I saw was if someone that was plugged into the same router as you could read your traffic. Typically, no. It really depends on the configuration of the network, especially if you're on a guest network. And again, if you're browsing the web and doing casual browsing, everything is encrypted with HTTPS for the most part. So the only thing that they're going to be able to see potentially is the initial connection and where you're connecting to. A normal user would not be able to snoop your browsing session with just a cable. There are things they could do potentially, depending on their level of access, but not just the cable.
How to hire a pen tester?
I think they mean pen tester. Like penetration tester.
I don't know. That might be out of scope.
Yeah.
for this talk. I saw someone saying that they were like now even more concerned to, come to the U.S. Based on what we said. You have an elevated risk, right? It's covered in the news, and maybe it might be sensationalized a little bit, but there are thousands of travelers coming here every day, right? Maybe more than that. And obviously, they're not detaining everybody. They're not stopping everybody, but they are stopping more than 0 people. So the whole point of this wasn't to say, oh, it's scary to come into anywhere international, especially here, and that, you should be scared out of your mind. It's to think about what you're bringing with you and make smart, conscious decisions on what those things are and what's on them, and reduce your risk, reduce your profile of if you are the randomly selected individual in the line to get the pat down and get, whatever your shit gone through, that you're already prepared and it's not a surprise. Like you had no idea this was possible, and you have all 372 group chats and Telegram fully downloaded and cached, and all that, and right. So don't get caught with your pants down, right? Basically, is I think more of the point than to like, ooh, never come across a border. It's scary. It was more about that.
I do want to call out Ceci Lasso's answer to the how to hire a pen tester. Just proudly brag about your website security on some forum and watch everyone try to prove you wrong. I think that is probably the most effective way to do it. Thornfox, the username, if for some reason that's not working, the username is DefConFurs on Telegram. It's just a chat. It should work. I thought we tested it yesterday. DefConFurs on Telegram, all one word. And I think that brings us to time. Last parting thought, yes, a lot of what we talked about is a little bit scary. This talk is not meant to scare anybody away. Like Alofoxx said, this talk is meant to empower you and let you think and reason about real common sense things that you can do, logical things that you can do to keep yourself safe when you put yourself in situations that maybe are riskier than you may think. So please don't be discouraged by this, right? Think about your threat model and come up with some action plans that you can use to protect yourself.
Yeah. So, thank you everyone who sat along with us, listened to us ramble a little bit about why you shouldn't put stupid things on your phone. If you're going to put stupid things on your phone, use Signal. It looks like there might be 1 or 2 more questions in Discord. We might reply to that after the talk, but thank you everyone for coming, and hopefully you get some sleep before tomorrow. And of course, Club Fin is still going on, so see you guys around.
Thank you, everyone. Wait, do we dab on the way out now?
Right? Yeah, we gotta get the dab in there.